It is called Ujamaa in Tanzania, Harambe in Kenya. And in our own motherland, it is summed up in the phrase we all are too familiar with. One Zambia, meaning, though we are many, we are one. Each of these phrases describe Ubuntu, the beautiful, celebrated African concept of communal living. African culture is endowed with several tenets that are a residue of God's common grace. And in many ways, they should be embraced and celebrated. We are raised up to respect our elders. We are taught to practice hospitality and help those in need. And one such African tenet is that of communal living. What is communal living, you ask? Well, communal living is summed up in the ideology, I am because we are. No one lives in isolation. We weep together, we rejoice together, we succeed together, we fail together. My neighbor's funeral is our funeral. My neighbor's wedding is our wedding. My wife is my wife. No wonder we have sayings in Africa, like it takes the village to raise the child. Or, as the people in the East would say, manza kaprilila, somba zinkala pamozi. Meaning, when the river dries up, the fish comes together. So you see, in a communal living, even the struggles and challenges of life are meant to bring you together. I mean, many of us would remember the voice of KK singing that famous song, Tiende pamozi dimtima umo. Communal living. Practically, this is seen in several ways. When a mother or a lady is expecting, the community comes along and bears gifts, and they offer counsel when she delivers. And as the child is growing, the community is obligated to aid the parent in raising up that child, giving them counsel. Takes the village. And when you graduate from school, your neighbors are on hand to celebrate with you as though they have graduated. And when you're about to marry, oh, it's a celebration. Not just for you, not just for the two of you, but for the whole community, because it's a communal thing. And they come along and celebrate with you, and they are very generous with the counsel. And when you die, the community will come along to mourn with your family, to mourn with your loved ones. But they don't come empty-handed. They come bearing gifts, food, to help the family bear the cost of the funeral. Communal living. So even in your death, you become a recipient of communal living. And you see, in years gone by, the social, economic, and political dynamics necessitated strong, deep communal ties. Success and security depended on it. But with every good ideology, abuses abound. See, anything involving people, there are dangers and abuses. Firstly, in communal living, there's a real danger of self-entitlement. Because what is yours is mine, I can demand it. I can ask of you and expect you to oblige, like black tasks. There's this sense of entitlement. But secondly, there is a sense in which communal living can encourage and promote laziness. There are those who coast through life trying to live off other people's backs. Like that uncle who calls you suddenly, saying your children, his, have passed grade 7. They, therefore, need you to send them school fees. Communal living. But you see, communal living can also eat the proverbial cow. You know, imagine a family that has a cow and they use it for plowing the field. But then they also get milk from it. And before long, they want T-bone. And there's no more cow. And there are people in African families who are overwhelmed by requests and burdens from the extended family, demanding needs to be met left, right, and center until we burden them to death. Furthermore, communal living can stifle individuality. Because the emphasis is on the community, there can be a neglect of the individual and their rights. And so, we mistake sameness for oneness. And anyone who is different and does things different is frowned upon and castigated. And it is no wonder that in many African families, cases of gender-based violence and defilement are easily swept under the carpet because, you see, at that moment, the individual's right, usually a wife or a young girl, does not equal the reputation of the community, in this case, the family. That is a danger of communal living. Let me illustrate how communal living can be a blessing and a curse. In years gone by, as I mentioned, when there's a wedding taking place, the community comes along and they would form these unspoken committees where friends and family come together to plan and to help a couple plan their wedding and meet the costs and even start off in life. The couple has no idea. It is not their initiative. People would do this joyfully. They would bring whatever they have and give it joyfully. So it is then a gift. And so the couple would have this beautiful wedding with plenty of people, but they don't bear the cost alone. That is a blessing, isn't it? What is happening today is the exact opposite. It's anything but joyful assistance. You have a friend you last saw in high school, add you to a WhatsApp group entitled Kitchen Party Committee or Wedding Committee. And they will say the minimum contribution is 500. And they plan this exorbitant wedding on your account. And people have to give grudgingly in the interest of Tachimone Kabwin. It doesn't look good. Further, as though that is not enough, you get this beautiful wedding invitation. Very colorful. And right at the bottom, it will say a minimum contribution of 300 as a gift collected at the door. You have just bought the invitation. Now you see, that defeats the very essence and purpose of communal living, because it forces people to meet other people's demands, whether or not you have the means, and you grudgingly do it because tachimoneka bueno. And then, besides, if you don't help, they won't help you. That is the case. Some considerations for us. Just because there are dangers and abuses in communal living does not mean we should throw the baby with the bathwater. There are some good things, and we should embrace those good things. Secondly, we need to learn to self-critique ourselves, self-critique our norms and practices, self-critique our cultural tenets, and evaluate them. Remove the good and remove the bad and embrace the good. And thirdly, just because we are evaluating and critiquing the African cultural tenets, we are not saying, and we should not embrace the individualistic Western worldview. We are Africans. There is beauty to being an African. And we should embrace our Africanness. However, we should constantly evaluate ourselves, because the people that do not critique themselves are not going to develop. So what are the challenges to the right communal living? Communal living that embraces all the good tenets. What are the challenges? I can think of two. One is pride. And selfishness. We are proud and self-centered people. And that's why we end up entitled, isn't it? We want what's good for us at all costs, at the cost of others. And hence we become entitled. You see, it's not doing good to others is not natural to us. And we therefore need a worldview that pushes for a communal living where people are selfless and give sacrificially. A worldview whose creed is love your neighbor as yourself. A worldview that pushes for the good of others. That's a worldview we need. One that calls for selfless and sacrificial love. So I'd like to ask you to imagine with me, what will a Zambia where communal living is rightly practiced look like? What will a Zambia where people are selfless, where people love their neighbor as themselves look like? Put on your creative ability, your creative cap. Imagine for a moment. Well, let me paint the picture for you. It will be a Zambia where people work hard and give generously. A Zambia where people in public office will serve selflessly for the good of the country. It will be a Zambia that encourages its sons and daughters to excel regardless of political affiliation. It will be a Zambia where that is devoid of corruption, political violence, and tribalism. And so the question for us is, what are you doing to foster such a Zambia? What are you doing? What are you doing in your home to foster such a Zambia? What are you doing in your family to foster such a Zambia? What are you doing at your workplace? What are you doing at school? What are you doing in your community to foster such a Zambia? What are you doing? Years back when I passed to grade 10, my uncle who helped me find a school place, pulled strings, called me for a final meeting to give me parting words of wisdom. And he said a lot. I've since forgotten a lot that he said. But one thing he said has stuck with me for years. He said to me, and I quote, "My boy, I am helping you now, not because I want you to come and help me in future, but because I want you to do well and help others as well. That, my boy, is civilization." End of quote. I like to say that is a blessing of communal living rightly practiced. May we practice such a communal living. Thank you.